Hello and welcome back to Dave's Towpath Dawdles at last. It's been quite a while, hasn't it, since I last switched track beds and ruins for the tranquility of the British canal side. I'm here at Bugsworth Basin in Derbyshire, which you might possibly recognise from before. It is of course the terminus of the Peak Forest tramway from another video that I inflicted on you not too long ago. But more importantly, it is the terminus of the Peak Forest Canal, which is what we are exploring today. Well, we'll be exploring part of it today at least. I think we'll start with a quick catch-up before we set off again. Bugsworth Basin was actually 5 basins in one site, believe it or not. Mostly served by their own individual tram terminal. Although when I say trams, I probably actually should have said trucks. During the late 1800s, Bugsworth was a big player in the local limestone industry. You only have to get a glimpse of this big bad boy behind me to get a hint of that. Thanks to those big hot holes, and maybe a few not so big ones, the basins saw up to 600 tonnes each day being placed on a barge and shipped away on the 15-mile journey to Ashton under Lyne and onto places beyond Manchester and further out. As you might have guessed from the state of this place in particular, this story didn't quite come to a happy ending, and by the early 1920s, Bugsworth Basin's role in the limestone industry came to a close, or more or less closure. And that's what I call an industry now in decline. You know, I missed all that fapping about I've been doing for the last couple of minutes. I've almost forgotten we've got a canal to visit. One last look at the barges of today before we set off. And that inescapable preserved lime truck over there, and the interesting bridges that adorn this amazing site, even more so standing up on top of one. That said, it is time we set off. And it is also time for the first of the historical spots already from the basin. What we have next to us here is the wharfinger's cottage. It's the original office and also house of the person keeping order over the wharfs and wartime industrial spots that we just walked past, or spent a quarter of the video so far in. Nice if we can see the thing in full just before we go on, and a quick glimpse at the info plaque on the front as well. That's the name, isn't it? German Wheatcroft, and he's probably even English. Lovely lamps, certainly not going to be part of the original house, probably installed as part of some sort of a local restriction related to keeping up a heritage appearance. Barely a minute beyond that and we reach Teapot Row, a small set of cottages Just a slight walk along that give an enviable slice of life for those that prefer the sight of a barge passing along their doorstep rather than a car, a bus or a bin lorry. Probably beneficial for those not sure where to dump the rest of their morning cuppa, if you're curious about the name. Just round another corner and we find ourselves having to cut beneath the A6 main road. With one last look behind us. We now find ourselves coming up to a tiny aqueduct that you probably wouldn't quite notice from up here on the canal, though what you will notice shortly, cunningly concealed behind that footbridge, is another little junction. This little half a mile offshoot to the left of me opened in around 1800, connecting and extending the canal to the wharf and basin near Whaley Bridge town centre. Now, just before you begin to imagine that barge owners made their poor old horsey use that horrible footbridge here, don't worry, people weren't that horrible even in the 1800s. Straight down this steep stony path here was the way they took across. Right behind me here is Bridgemont Tunnel, which carried horses beneath the aqueduct and connected them to the Whaley Bridge arm, therefore saving them a little bit of agony that the footbridge might have caused. As is the usual custom with tunnels on my videos, we do have to have a quick stroll through this lovely 1801 built structure. Short, but stunningly enriched in heritage. And stunning equally as much from the other side as you study the stonework around it. Emerging triumphantly from the other end of the tunnel, and it's time for a quick walk to Whaley Bridge. As you might sometimes tell, barges do require a bit of DIY, as anyone who's watched Canal Boat Diaries can testify. Lovely curtains, mate. We have the Barge of Diamonds. Quite out of nowhere, I discover I'm suddenly not the only person around. Didn't expect to see any bridges on this little bit, but still, we have got one. And look, underneath it, some cobbles. You see some interesting headgear on the top of barges nowadays, but I'm not sure that's just a spin round in the wind or something to help you watch TV on. I ought to try and catch up and grill Robbie Cummings sometime on whether he's got one as well or planning to put one on top of his. That's how they get from barge to railway nowadays, or barge to road. Contrary to popular belief, barges are allowed gardens too, although there wasn't that much of a bit of space on top of the deck as there is on the towpath. Glad rabbit, probably be glad more when I've gone. The gardens only get better along here. The Judith Merry too, as stationed at Whaley Bridge Basin when not in use. Oh, the times I've seen that girl parked up that I've been visiting. Nice day for a barbie. Just round this curve now, guys, is what we've actually come to look at. The wondrous Whaley Bridge Wharf and Basin. We have to cross a straddle over a river relief filter to get to it first. The basin here at Whaley Bridge first began business back in 1797, with a magnificent warehouse just behind me here opening its doors 4 years later. It was built as a 3-storey structure initially, holding materials awaiting transfer to barge as well as being offloaded. This beautiful crane here was one of maybe a number assigned to endure their daily toil. As you probably might also know, railways soon came in handy when it came to transporting cotton, limestone, iron and coal, as well as water. Back in 1820, Whaley Bridge was originally intended for a link with the canal at Cromford, but due to the mountainous include, that became unviable. This led to the construction of the 31-mile-long Cromford High Peak Railway, which finally opened in the 1830s. The rails coming up from the front of the door are a little bit overgrown at the moment, so sorry to destroy your excitement. This, of course, made the wharf area a fully fledged interchange between barge and railway, and was heavily expanded to accommodate sidings. Sitting in this area, now covered in lovely big trees. The warehouse, meanwhile, saw business boom already, with 5 bays to pick from, plus a new single-story extension at one end. Speaking of ends, we need to be setting off back to the other one now, I think. Cheerio to the chap with the barge. Through the tunnel again, because it'd be a blasphemy not to. And up to terra firma again, as we do. Savour the sights of the junction once again, as these canoeists and kayakers are undoubtedly doing. Resuming on a merry way from Whaley Bridge Junction once more, and we are already faced with a couple more bridges. First, the A5004, and then straight behind it, we're under the A6. And straight beyond that, we've got another of these horribly slender footbridges. But duck beneath this, and our old friend Judith Mary II is just coming to view once more on her return to Whaley Bridge, undoubtedly. If you can't quite clearly remember, it's the same barge we glimpsed through the gap earlier. Afternoon. On past another that is not quite as active or busy looking. Got to say there's some lovely gardens over the other side there. Don't think what the price is. Now this bridge certainly makes up for the last few, especially as it comes complete with its own barge passing beneath as well. As just said, we meet with a decent bridge at last. Bridge number 33. And to testify its age, we have the cobbles in fine supply. Some of the more expensive ones begin to emerge into view at this stage. Now we know James Bond Park's up here somewhere. Coming back round to look underneath it, it looks like there might have been either a lock here or one of those chicanes that the canals sometimes have to try and make passing barges behave. Another of these notorious footbridges. Starting to see a pattern emerge here, wouldn't you think? They do seem to like coming together in threes round here, don't they? And you get round the corner to find this canal is even more deceptive, because right behind that are yet another four. Ducks for the collection. Wonder what the green cross code is for canals. Now there's a realistic barge name if ever I saw one. Getting round the corner to the good bits once again. And does it get better than this? Lovely old light coloured stone bridge and a beautiful little white painted cottage alongside. What more could you want? Apart from another marina on the other end, of course. Indeed, hiding straight behind Bridge 31 here is the vibrant and active hub of Furness Vale Marina. Furness Vale is the first major intermediate stop beyond Bugsworth. Built in the 1970s and extended westward in the early 90s, this long, elegant haven boasts over 100 spaces. Sadly, I can't get over there to count them all as it's private property, but there are plentiful facilities for any passing visitor or resident, such as a toilet and shower block, solid fuel area and disposal facility, all at your disposal. As well as its own chandler's business, which I recall passing back there on the way in. While also at the end, we have the historic car swing bridge. If I can just swing around to show you it. Although it has seen a fair few paint jobs in its lifespan, it is said by many to be the original structure. The road across it led to a nearby local farm, occupied by the 19th century Carr family, hence its name. Could do with a car myself right now that I come to think of it. Anyway, nothing beats the power of walking along a canal side. Strolling along further, and it doesn't seem to get any less busier at this end of the marina. See a few people flying the flag for cycling around this spot while we're passing. Just enjoy the absolute stillness of the water here for a moment. And also the sight of another barge approaching past us from the woodlands. Right in front of us now is a beautiful looking bridge number 29. And the accordingly beautiful cobbled walkway once again. And another piece of canal side detail we've encountered for the first time on this route, a plank rack. For those who don't know the stuff about their canals, plank racks are basically where they store the wooden planks that are placed across the canal to close particular segments off due to maintenance or when the canal is shut for winter. What's similarly beautiful at this point is the view to my right across the magnificent Whaley Valley and its viaduct in the distance. And of course, dominated by its eye-catching viaduct on the outskirts of New Mills. Superbly timed as the train just happens to be passing over. Ooh, rather a long one too. And just coming around this last corner, as we notice the boat spaces begin to get busier again. We curve nice and gently into the attractive and colourful New Mills Marina. Well, it would have been more attractive and colourful if the sun hadn't suddenly started to go down. That should make up for it. Some nice bright orange flowers. The quintessential English canal scene. A marina, a bridge, a mill and a chimney, all in one cubic acre. Reopened in 2015 after a big refurb, it might not quite match Furness Vale in terms of size. Still, it is nothing more short of stuff you might need for your typical canal journey, with a store selling essentials plus a laundry facility even, as well as electricity, fuel and gas for those stopping by for a while. And as we enjoy one last look, I think it's time I was looking for a barge to board back home again. Well, sadly, no lift from that lot. But if you see a barge called Like and Subscribe pull up, be sure to leap straight aboard. And I shall see you on the next journey. Bye. You know, I think I'll go and have my breakfast outside this morning.